First of all, for how many of you here know what Cursor is or have used Cursor? Fair number. For those who don't know, Michael, let's just start 30 seconds. What is Cursor for those who don't know?
Cursor is the best way to code, and in particular, the best way to code with AI. And so the way folks built software circa 10 years ago was largely within text editors, where you're looking at reams and reams of code, and you're editing it by hand. And how you build software now is changing. So more and more, you can take a step back from the code, and you can ask an AI to go do end-to-end tasks for you.
Great. And I know sometimes Cursor gets lumped in with as part of the vibe coding trend. I know you don't really like the word vibe coding and don't really consider Cursor a vibe coding product. Can you talk a little about why you don't like vibe coding as a kind of term and why you don't consider Cursor kind of in that camp?
Of course. So vibe coding refers to a method of coding with AI where you kind of close your eyes and you don't look at the code at all. And you just ask the AI to go build the thing for you. And so to take the analogy of, imagine instead of building software, we're building houses. If you were vibe coding, you would close your eyes and you just ask for a house to be built. And you'd ask for changes, you'd ask for the floor plan, and then you'd open your eyes and it would just be there. And you wouldn't examine the foundations at all. You wouldn't look under the floorboards. You wouldn't look at the wiring. And that works great if you are prototyping from scratch things like games, websites, hobby projects. But that's not our end customer. We serve professional engineering teams. And so we're helping people build skyscrapers. We're helping people build things like professional games, like some of the biggest CRMs in the world, like software that verifies GPUs, like software that also helps drug development companies kind of track the chemicals that they're bringing to development. And so if you close your eyes and you don't look at the code and you have AIs build things with shaky foundations, as you add another floor and another floor and another floor and another floor, things start to kind of crumble. And so we think of ourselves as an AI coding provider because the way in which Cursor is used, it's used for these really large, complicated projects where quality is really important.
And I know you kind of have a whole IDE that this is part of, right? I mean, this is not just, it's built into the platforms that developers use already to build software, right?
Yeah. So Cursor is built to handle kind of all levels of abstraction. So you can go into the code, you can text edit things there, you'll get the maximum level of assistance with that workflow. But then in the places where you want to take a step back and you want to ask the AI to do something end to end, you can do that too, right, and then have Cursor verified for you.
Right, and this is a question I want to ask because it gets into, I think, a lot of some of the issues we're seeing with AI in general, where you have a lot of companies such as yourselves, an application layer company. You're built on top of a bunch of different sort of AI frontier models, foundation models. But then the frontier models themselves have some of these coding capabilities. And increasingly, you see companies such as Anthropic, such as OpenAI, rolling out coding-specific tools. And I guess the question is, like, why would someone use a Cursor as opposed to just using the base model?
Yeah. To go back to another physical analogy, I think it would be like kind of taking an engine and a concept car around it, and then using that instead of a whole end-to-end car that was manufactured by a real car maker. And what we do is we take the best intelligence that the market has to offer from many different providers. And then we also do our own product-specific models in places. We take that, we build it together, we integrate it, and then also build the best tool and end UX for working with AI.
Great. I want to tell the audience I'm going to come to you for questions in a minute, so please think of your questions. But first, you've been moving extremely quickly. You're one of the fastest growing startups, in recent years in Silicon Valley. And I know a year ago you actually, were mostly it was individual developers who were using your product. Now you're selling, to entire enterprises. You've just crossed, I think, the $1 billion revenue mark, which is a great milestone. How have you kind of managed that journey, and what has that been like?
It's been really exciting, and ever since the start, we've had lots of individual developers using us, but also lots of companies from the get-go. And so for a long time, the majority of our revenue has been directly from businesses.
Yeah.
But the journey over this past year plus has been expanding that set of businesses to include some of the largest companies in the world. And so that's both digital native companies like Uber and NVIDIA. That's also real economy companies like PwC, Starbucks, Hilton, other folks like that. And it's been really exciting. And it's been really exciting both to see the demand from companies like this, to edit the product in ways that improve the amount of value that we can give these companies, and then not just demand, but also kind of the success of actual deployment.
Right, and I know you have some interesting stats. I know you did a study with University of Chicago. It shows how much productivity uplift developers get from using the tool. It's like 40% or something like that. What are you seeing in terms of, productivity, and what are some of those companies you mentioned, what specifically are they using Cursor for? Do you have a sense? I mean, I don't know if you know what they've built with using your product.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
for instance, PayPal has had to modernize, I think, thousands of services using Cursor, and I think that on an earnings call recently, it was just made public that Salesforce is seeing 30% productivity uplift in moving to Cursor. And so those are some anecdotal examples, and then the study that you referenced, it was some folks from Chicago went in and studied Cursor usage within large companies in particular, and saw that those companies get 40% more done, merge 40% more PRs.
What you're seeing, is there any difference between sort of, is it junior developers that get the most value, or is it more experienced people? Because again, this is one of these other areas.
Yes. So I think a lot of folks think that junior developers actually get the most out of AI. That's where people start. When these academics went in and looked at the data, it looked like senior engineers actually were more effective at using the tools and were accepting code at higher rates, and were getting more value from them. And it was kind of monotonically increasing with the number of years of experience.
That's interesting.
And so we want to dig in to understand exactly why that's the case.
Yeah.
It could be that they are more adept at kind of instructing these tools. It could be that they're more confident in accepting code from them because they're better at verifying quickly what the AIs have done. But yeah, we're seeing senior engineers have a lot of success.
That's super interesting, and I think it comports with some things I've heard about others of these sort of application layer AI softwares, that it's often the more senior people who get the most out of the tools. It's interesting. All right, questions from the audience. We've got some here. This woman here on the end of the aisle, if we can get a mic to you, and if you can please state your name and where you're from.
Thank you. Hi, Michael. My name is Margaret, and I'm a founder of Kiseta. We're building an AI agent to automate the planning process workflow for aviation programs. So basically, I want to ask you, like, Cursor is amazing at writing normal code super fast, but if I'm building like an AI agent for something with ultra long running, high stakes reasoning loop that can literally take years and can never hallucinate on safety logic, what do you think is still missing right now fundamentally in the current generation of AI coding tools, including Cursor, to make that safe and possible?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's all this talk out there about it, like, oh, can we automate all of software development? Can we have an automated software engineer that could do these kind of long-range projects? What's your take on that?
Well, I think on the automate all of software engineering question, I think it's more just over the past couple of years, where folks' time is spent when doing software engineering has shifted, and that's going to continue into the future. And there's this whole category of time that's spent on kind of this human compilation step, where engineering teams, they know how they want the software to work, they know how they want it to look, and it's all about figuring out how to spell out that to the computer in for statements and if statements. And that kind of human compilation step, I think that's going to shrink and shrink and shrink, and people are going to be able to spend more time on how should the software work and kind of designing the logic. And so that's how I think things are going to shift over time. How do we get to more long-run, completely end-to-end tasks? I think that there have been a bunch of improvements over the last 6 months. I think that that's going to continue in a big way over the next year. I think part of it is really getting the models to run the code and test their work and then react to that. It would be very superhuman to ask the AI to correctly write code without being able to run it. Humans, they often have to run a suite of tests. They have to run the software, play with it, go back and forth many, many, many times before they get to a complete solution. And so we're doing a lot of work on long-running background tasks and having a great product around that right now, and have some product changes to announce soon.
Great. Let's see if we can get another question. This gentleman right here has got his hand up nice and high. Let's get you a mic. Please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Arsh from Adeline. If I go back last year, my understanding is that Cursor was maybe 1 or 2 standard deviations better than other kind of similar products in the market. But in the last year, you guys have truly built a GTM motion that is in a league of one and built an incredible business. What would you say are 3 things that went really well this year about your GTM motion? And what would you say is the one thing that caught you by surprise in kind of all of that, building an incredible business?
I think a couple of things. I think we were lucky to get a really great set of folks as part of our founding GTM team. And we spent a bunch of time dialing in the initial account executive profile, the initial sales engineer profile, the initial post-sales profile too. That then helped us accelerate and go fast after we got the initial team in place. I think one other thing I'd highlight is a big focus on enablement. So I think AI tool procurement is different in a few ways. One is just the demand and the success that people are seeing in the AI coding tool space. Another is behavior change is required in your workforce. And so you have to teach people and you have to bring them along in a way that I think is more demanding than other tools. And so we focused a ton, not on professional services, but for all our customers, being able to go and help them internally teach their engineers how to code with AI. And so we've seen a lot of success there too.
I'm going to ask you one thing I know that didn't go so well this past year, which is that over the summer you had some price changes, and you had some complaints from customers that, oh, you guys have hiked prices. And I think it's interesting because it made people think, oh, I'm so dependent on this tool. This tool is so great. I use it for all sorts of things, but now they've really got me, and they can just jack prices up, and this is going to be a problem for me going forward. I don't know if you could respond to what happened in the summer with pricing. And I understand you're also sort of shifting the way you're thinking about pricing away. You used to do a kind of seat license model, and that's changing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in our space, and I think that this is happening in parallel AI spaces, there's been a bit of a reckoning over the past couple of years where the behaviors and workloads and use cases have changed in a really positive way, where people are engaging with these tools really deeply. Usage is increasing month over month really deeply. And we're also asking these tools to help us in much more ambitious ways. When we started Cursor, you would turn to Cursor for a quick JavaScript question. And now you're turning to it to do hours of work for you. And so the pricing model had to shift. And for us and others in the space, that means shifting more towards a consumption model, where as the value we give you increases, as you deepen your usage of the tool, the way in which you're charged for the tool flexes up and down.
Interesting. So you're going to more of a usage model. How are companies controlling costs then? Because if you have a developer who's going to spend a million tokens in a day, using Cursor all the time, and you're going to roll that out company-wide, I imagine a lot of CTOs are looking at that and saying, oh my God, what's my bill going to be? And how do I get visibility into that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to learn from companies we look up to, like Snowflake, Databricks, the cloud providers here. And we have a whole team internally dedicated to enterprise engineering and building things like spend controls and billing groups and visibility.
Got it. Let's see if we can get another question from the audience. If we have another, if not, I've got more to, over here, there's a gentleman right here. Please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, Val Berkovici with Weka. We supply storage and memory solutions to neoclouds all over the world. Following up on that last topic, where do you think the unit economic trends of tokens are going over the next couple of years? Not worth predicting beyond that.
Yeah. It's been exciting to see the cost of intelligence over the last year and the year before that really consistently decline on a per token basis. The countervailing effect has been we've then asked AI to do much more. And so per task, the range of time an AI can work has gone up a lot. And the number of tokens that an AI can use for large ambitious tasks has gone up a lot. And so I think that this trend will continue, where on a per token basis, the cost of intelligence just keeps going down. There's a lot of inputs and drivers to that. And then we're going to delegate more and more ambitious work to the AIs as a result.
Interesting. One more from the audience? Yeah, over here. Let's go to this side. There's somebody there. Wait till the paddle gets to you. There you go. And state your name and where you're from, please.
I'm Dev Rishi. Work at Rubrik, a data infrastructure and security company. Previously was founder CEO of Element for a company. My question is, I think a lot of the large-scale AI adoption I've seen, especially outside of coding tools, are in digital native and high-growth tech companies in large part. We see enterprises a little bit slower in the AI adoption lifecycle and curve, maybe coding tools being the leading edge of the spear there. What do you think are some of the key blockers towards greater AI adoption in Global 2000 enterprise, as an example, if you agree with the premise?
Yeah, I think that over the course of 2026, one of the big trends I'm excited about, maybe it'll bleed into 2027, is some of what's working in our space, in the AI coding tool space, I think will start to work for other areas of knowledge work. And that's in particular being able to delegate whole tasks to the AI. and having the AI really be able to work with the same tools that humans can work with, and not just go and gather information, but then also make changes and actually take action for you. I think that's worked really well in the AI coding tool space. The other thing that's worked well too is meeting people where they are. And so in the places where you want the human to kind of take over and not go full self-driving mode, you have to let them do that. And then you also want to offer them AI assistance when they're in that mode of operating. And so really excited for that to happen in more spaces, and for the success that folks are seeing with AI coding deployments to then transition over to other lines of their business.
Are you using AI within Cursor in functions other than coding? I mean, are there places?
We are, yes.
And what's that look like? Where are you finding success with?
There are a bunch of places, I guess a couple that I'll highlight. And none of these are too unique, and so we are also excited just as a business for the tools in the space to get better so that we can then procure them. But one is support. So I think roughly 80% of our support tickets are handled end-to-end to resolution by an AI. And we've actually done a lot of work internally on kind of customizing that setup. Another is internal knowledge management and communication. So folks can ask, we have a kind of a system internally where folks can ask any question about the company, and they get it answered by an AI. And then we have a few forward deployed engineers internally embedded throughout different functions, kind of building custom tooling right now for operations, for sales, and experimenting also with procurement.
Interesting. And that forward deployed engineer model, you see a lot of companies going to that and helping. That seems to be one of the ways that people are trying to drive adoption within more traditional large enterprises. Are you finding you're having to do that also with Cursor, or is mostly it's a product that a developer can take and use without that kind of hands-on support?
We try to take the learnings from specific customers and then make them scalable and repeatable. And so not exactly a full forward deployed engineer motion, but again, our go-to-market motion, there's a big focus on enablement, and both helping customers by bringing learnings from other companies to them, but then also helping customers amplify the voices internally that are most ahead of the adoption curve for them.
Yeah. Cursor is definitely one of the sort of hottest startups out there in Silicon Valley. You guys, as I said, have had tremendous growth. Are we going to see an IPO at any point soon?
I think we have lots to do to continue building out the technology, the product, and the team, and to not focus right now.
Not right now. All right, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. In terms of roadmap, in terms of what we should expect to see in terms of more features in Cursor in the coming year, what's kind of on the roadmap? Give people a sense of what, come back a year from now, what are you going to be able to do in Cursor that you couldn't do today?
I guess a few things to highlight. So one is, over the course of the next year, we are really, really excited about the degree of autonomy that Cursor gives you and extending that. And so we want you to be able to take end-to-end tasks, ones that are concise to specify, but then really hard to do, and have them just entirely be done by Cursor. And so an example would be a bug fix. So it might be that a couple sentences to describe bug fix actually takes weeks of someone's time, thousands of times running the code. We want Cursor to be able to do that end-to-end. Then you'll also start to see us helping teams more and thinking about teams as the atomic unit that we serve. And so in particular, I think that there are ways we could help folks across the software development lifecycle outside of the writing of code. And we're already doing that in a big way where we've seen tons of success from our review product. So right now, Cursor on many of our customers, it runs on every PR, and it's looking both at human code and AI code, and it's doing kind of a double verification to find any problems with the software. And so you'll see us start to help teams more as a whole too.
Great, so more collaborative, more testing, and some more autonomy.
End-to-end.
More autonomous end-to-end. Great, I think we're gonna have to leave it there. We're just at time. Thank you so much, Michael. This has been fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Us. Thanks so much.